Damn, I haven't posted a video in a long while. Anyways, around 4 months back in February, I had you, yes you, the viewer, decide the outcome of the Russian Civil War. And many new republics and states were created from this poll, even more than our own timeline. So I'm gonna quickly go over those answers. First of all is deciding the fate of Ukraine. Now there were multiple, and I do mean multiple answers, such as how large Ukraine would be, or even if Ukraine existed in this timeline at all. But around 31.3% of you guys chose for a greater Ukraine, which means that all ethnic Ukrainian territories are annexed into this new Ukrainian state. Man, if Putin saw this Ukraine, he would be pissed. Anyways, the next two countries that you guys decided the fates of are Estonia and Latvia. And you had three options: give them both to Russia, make them independent individually, or have the United Baltic Duchy, a German puppet state, survive into the 1920s. And I think it's pretty obvious which one won. With around 50.6% of the votes, the United Baltic Duchy would survive in this alternate timeline. Next, we'll head down south to Lithuania. Just like the previous question, you guys also had three options of what happened to Lithuania in this alternate timeline. Either A, have their historic borders, B, have their historic borders but Mel is ceded to Germany, or C, have the Kingdom of Lithuania survive. And by a sweeping 47%, the Kingdom of Lithuania would survive in this alternate timeline. Next, we head even more down south to Belarus. Now, you guys had multiple different options of what happened to Belarus in this alternate timeline, but with 30.1% of the votes, Russia would be annexing Belarus. Hey, at least Russia got something in this timeline. Now, we'll head north to Finland. Now, what will happen to Finland territorially? Now, around 26.5% of you guys chose for a greater Finland, including St. Petersburg, which will create a strong buffer against a potential threat coming from Russia in the near future. Now, moving on, you viewers had three options of what will happen to Finland politically after the Russian Civil War. With 38.6% of the votes, you guys chose for the monarchy to remain in power in Finland, aka the same monarchy Germany installed during World War I. But they will likely have to choose a different monarch, so that way the Western allies don't get skeptical. Now, I'm pretty sure you guys hate Poland because 81.9% of you guys voted for Poland to have their Central Powers borders, which basically means they gained nothing from the Russian Civil War. And another 16.9% of you guys wanted Poland to be ceded to Russia if Ukraine and or Belarus wasn't independent. So that would have created some horrifying looking borders if that happened. Now, moving on to the miscellaneous territories, you guys had four different options of what would happen to Crimea after the Russian Civil War, such as giving it to Russia, Ukraine if it was independent, which in case it is, and giving it to Turkey. But 27.7% of you guys wanted Crimea to be an independent state. Moving on to Bessarabia, you guys had multiple different options of what happened to Bessarabia after the Russian Civil War, but 37.3% of you guys wanted all of Bessarabia to be ceded to Romania, just like in our own timeline. Moving down to the Caucasus, you guys had multiple options on what happened to this region after the Russian Civil War, but 22.9% of you guys wanted Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and the Northern Caucasus to be independent. Now, I was hoping a majority of you guys would give all of the Caucasus, or at least the Southern Caucasus, to Turkey, but it's you guys who are writing the scenario basically, not me. Now, for Central Asia, you guys had three different options of what happened to this region after the Civil War, like being annexed into Russia or being a unified independent state, but 44.6% of you guys wanted Central Asia to be free but broken up into multiple different countries. So your guys' wishes are my commands. Now, moving on to Outer Manchuria, 25.3% of you guys wanted me to give it to Russia, just like in our own timeline. I was hoping you guys would let me give Outer Manchuria to Japan or China, but you viewers are just as boring and plain as always. I'm kidding, I love you guys, no diddy. Now, moving up north to the rest of the Far East, 43.4% of you guys wanted the Far East to be annexed into Russia, just like in our own timeline. I was kind of hoping that it would be annexed into America because that would low-key be funny, but that's something only James K. Polk could have dreamed of. Now, what will happen to Mongolia territorially after the Civil War? You guys had multiple different options of what will happen to Mongolia after the Civil War, but 37.3% of you guys wanted a greater Mongol state, with Tuva from Russia and Outer Mongolia from China being annexed into this new Mongol state. This is Genghis Khan's dream world if he was alive during the 1920s, trust me guys. Now, you viewers had four different options of what would happen to Mongolia politically if it was independent, such as being under Japanese influence, Russian influence, Chinese influence, but no, 38.6% of you guys wanted Mongolia to be a wannabe Switzerland, which simply means Mongolia is neutral in this timeline. Now, the country you guys have been waiting for, Russia. And the winner of the Russian Civil War with an astonishing 33.7% of the votes is, drumroll please, a white army victory as a republic. This video is getting boring, but if you're enjoying this video so far, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Here's a list of videos that I plan on making in the near future, so if you want to see them, make sure you click that subscribe button. I'll try to upload a video on the 1st and 15th of every month, but that's not a guarantee because I get very lazy a lot. Anyways, back to the video. Now, immediately after the events of the Russian Civil War, Eastern Europe would be even more unstable compared to our own timeline, due to Poland and Ukraine fighting over Galicia and Russian revanchism. Speaking of Russia, in the short term at least, they would be better off compared to our own timeline since they're not under a communist dictatorship, they're not cut off by the Western powers, which means their economy would be linked to the Western world. But since their economy is linked to the Western world, they'll eventually feel the ripple effect that is the Great Depression. Now, long-term, Russia would be worse off because after the Soviets came into power in our own timeline, industry heavily ramped up for the Russians due to Joseph Stalin's 5-year plans. But since the Soviets never came into power in this timeline, Russia would still be an agricultural society, which definitely isn't good due to the ripple effect the Great Depression had on the rest of the world during this timeline and our own timeline. This will likely lead to far-right fascism gaining popularity in this timeline due to far-left forces being crushed by the whites during the Russian Civil War. So eventually, sometime during the early 1930s, during the peak of the Great Depression, fascist forces would take over Russia, similar to how fascism took over Germany and Italy during our own timeline. But this new Russian fascism would be more aligned with Italian fascism rather than German fascism, considering that German fascism was openly racist while Italian fascism was secretly racist. Due to their ideological similarities, Germany, Russia, and Italy would all sign mutual defense agreements with each other, which would lay the groundwork for the Eurasian Axis. This would cause Poland, Ukraine, and the Baltics to seek closer ties with Britain and France in order to deter the Russo-German threat right by their borders. Due to this new fascist government in Russia, the Russians would likely rapidly increase their aid to the Chinese nationalists, making China a de facto member of the Eurasian Axis. Later, on September 1st, 1939, Germany would invade Poland from the west, while Russia would invade the Baltics and Ukraine from the east. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it? Which will lead to Britain and France declaring war on both Germany and Russia, igniting the Second World War. And that's where I'll end this video for today. I'll let you, the viewers, decide the fate of this alternate World War II via a Google form, which I linked down in the comments and description down below. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to this channel as well as my first channel, which will be in the comments and description down below. Also, go follow me on my TikTok and Twitter, which will also be down in the comments and description down below. This has been Awwsome History, and adios, amigos.